You and thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for taking the time out of your busy life to learn, and also to the other speakers to share. Of course, a big thank you to the sponsors for making events like this possible and all the volunteer work that goes in it. So thank you for that. And I've got indeed a session about business process flow for you. I call it Back in Business Process Flow. And how to collaborate on complex business scenarios using more of a task-based work. First, a little bit more about me. My name is Ben de Blanke. I love to share my knowledge on my personal blog or LinkedIn. Twitter I use once in a while. I'm not big fan of Twitter, but sometimes it's good to relax and see the content that's shared there. I'm a family man. I have 3 little kids. Luckily, they are now at school, so I have all the time to present to you this session. Basically, I've been doing low code for my entire professional life. I started with FileMaker Pro. I called it Access on Microsoft Access on steroids, and then transitioned to more the customer engagement platform, CRM platforms. And now for the last 4 years, I'm doing mainly Power Platform, and really enjoying that. Currently working at Dynamic People, who are really encouraging knowledge sharing and knowledge gathering. So that's what I'm doing today. And you might want to ask, let me just start with an agenda for today. First, I will give you an introduction to asynchronous work and business process flow. Then I will go more into the deeper concepts of what you can do with business process flow, which you wouldn't think about out of the box. So I got 2 advanced concepts. One called task groups, which, I kind of thought about myself, so I think it's really helpful. And the second is cloud flows and approvals inside of your business process flow, which can also help you automate your work when working on certain processes. And afterwards, I will wrap it up and talk about some more points that you can do, what you can think about, what you can research in your own time if you're inspired to do this. And as Ras already said, business process flow is it's around for a little while, and it's quite old. So why would I actually want to talk about business process flow? It's not exactly new, it might not be fancy, but and it hasn't received any noticeable updates for a while. And basically, this was the one update we got for the release wave. We got a little UI improvement on the scale, and a few laughs were had from the community when this was in the release notes. However, business process flow are still important, and I think during the transition to the new way of working with the pandemic and all, I think they can be a really good tool. Because more of our work is now done remotely. We are either at home or we have different teams located all around the country, the world. And collaboration is a big part of how you get work done. However, calls and meetings can fill an entire day, and then you do not have any time to get actually work done. So I want to talk a bit about asynchronous work. And that is a concept of how you can manage and organize your work to not be dependent on a lot of feedback or a lot of interaction. And it defines itself by not being time bound and not in a linear way of working. So you have your own set of tasks that you can focus on your goals rather than activity or collaboration. And I think this is definitely a good solution to work more effectively if your work allows it. So there are a few things to think about when thinking about asynchronous work. I think it really benefits from keeping people in the flow of their work. If you can focus on one task at a time without interruption, you have time to think deeper about your problem, create more autonomy and engagement from your workers, It alleviates stress and probably is easier onboarding new co-workers because tasks are already in place and they know what to pick up and when and what priority it has. Well, that you can facilitate what the strong aspects are of asynchronous work. What is the downside of asynchronous work? Well, you have less collaborative creativity. So if you are a person who really likes to talk about problems and then bounce ideas with each other, then this might not be the way you want to work. It can also blur your work-life boundaries. So if you have a lot of tasks waiting for you still on your backlog, then you might feel pressure to work more hours than you want. So that's also something to keep in mind when you think about asynchronous work. You have to well, be aware that it sometimes is pressure for people to have a big list of tasks to do. But if you facilitate asynchronous work, if you think you want to introduce that to your organization, how do you keep track of all these different types of tasks where multiple departments come in or where multiple iterations come in? And that's where I think business process flow can come in. And well, yeah, business process flow can help you keep track of your work, of your process, what steps are needed to be taken inside the business process flow. And I will show you in the next slide as well in highlight that you can define stages and steps. What you need to know is that it lives in a model-driven application or a data-first record. And yeah, well, you can create conditional logic out of the box to create multiple branches in your process. And business process flow can be one of the solutions to facilitate asynchronous work. And if you look at well, a screenshot I grabbed from a business process flow I've created, in this screen you see a form with on top of it the business process flow, where you got different kind of stages of, in this case, customer support request. So you got the new stage, after which you probably need to investigate what the problem is or what the customer issue is. And then you can maybe send a replacement or all different kind of step based on the problem of your outcome of your investigation. And after the problem is solved, you probably want to communicate that to the customer, and you can facilitate all those steps in the business process flow. Which also means that different people can work on the same process in different stages. This is how you can configure the business process flow. Due to time, I will not show you in the designer itself. So I created this one slide. Basically, you see the bigger blocks with stages. And in each stage, you can define multiple steps or trigger a process. And on the new case stage, I've added a few steps to show what are possibilities. So you can add data steps where you have to add data to the process. They can be required, or they can be that you have to enter them before you go to the next stage, but it can also be well, not required. You can also add flow to your steps, in which I will show you later, which is really cool. And you can define certain action steps. That's more of the automation part of the business process flow, including classic workflows. Also, you can see a condition with branches. So the condition is, after investigating, oh, we need to repair this phone, for instance, or you need to replace it. Then you can, for example, branch off into two different stages. If you need to repair it, you probably want to send it to the department who does the repairs. Or if you want to replace it, you probably want to notify the warehouse that they have to send a new item to this customer. So this is how you can facilitate this kind of process. And if we talk about good processes for a business process flow, in my opinion, if you have a different opinion or a different experience, I would love to know as well. But I think a good process is probably cross-team. So if it's not only inside your own team, then you might want to use a business process flow. Think of a process like onboarding of a new employee. The HR department knows that a new employee will start. They fill out the system with basic information. Then the IT department has to make a new account, create accounts in Azure Active Directory, for example. Application management will probably need to set all the basic rights for this type of user, depending on the role they start in the company. And at the end, HR want to probably send them flowers the day they start. So that's a cross-team collaboration on the same employee onboarding or experience process. Another example is multiple iterations or interactions. So I just talked about the customer or the service request of a customer. This is probably, or this can be complex depending on the type of service request, where you want to have multiple touch points with this customer during the life cycle of the process. So can you help me clarify this issue? Can you help me identify what the problem is? Different types of touch points with this iteration, and before you can move on to the next stage or even resolve the issue. What I think is good to remember is that you do not want to fragment your landscape. And what I mean by that is your business process flow, the work has to be done inside a model-driven app. I know you can also do this in a Canvas app a little bit, but I think most of the use cases are inside a model-driven app. And in my experience, it's not the best to have, for example, the HR department who normally works in a different system, or maybe only in Teams, log in once a week in a model-driven app to go ahead with the process of onboarding the employee. This does not give the best user experience. You probably are better off using tools inside the application that they want to work in. So that's something you have to keep in mind, that you want to focus on where the user is working and not exactly force people to work in a different application all the time. And now a quick introduction to business rules. I want to discuss this because I will use business rules in my advanced concept. Business rules are a way to add business logic to Dataverse. By that I mean you can add it to a table or to an entire form. And you can use different kind of scenarios, so you can set fields required based on if other field has a certain type or certain entry. You can also show or hide columns based on these kind of fields. You can set validation messages, and they can be table specific, which means they are on the server side. And that means it will also be for the web API required, or for the Power Automate flows. Or they can be client side or inside a form or all forms, which only means that they are on the client side of that specific form. So that's something to keep in mind, and I will highlight you why I tell about this later on. And this is the way you design a business rule. It's part of conditions. So if in this case the account contains data, I want to set fields required. If it doesn't contain data, I want to remove the requirement. And what I think is quite nice of a business rule is that I think it's not so technical that you need to use TypeScript, JavaScript, or a plugin, but also you can get this nice text view on the right bottom right corner. Where you can see the if then else structure of what the business rule is about. So it helps you talk about the business rule in this case. So that's a quick overview of the business rule. Now I want to go ahead and talk about the case of a broken screen. A little bit of a business scenario where you can imagine that a customer of ours has broken their screen and they called the service department to help them out regarding this incident. And well, yeah, it made a service request to our company that their screen is broken, and we have to handle this incident. And now I want to go to an advanced scenario to show you how I thought about task groups. And let me share my normal screen, which is here. This is well, basically the case. We have manually entered the case of the phone, the broken phone screen, and normally you will work from a business process flow and have various types of fields that you are required to enter. We need to add contact details. We need to add an account, maybe if it's more of a professional site. All these fields are required, and this is a scenario which is still relatively small. As you can see in the on the form itself, you can also add product information. Probably a lot of these fields are required as well in a normal scenario. And if those fields are required when you're entering the customer or the incident, the case, then you all have to add them to the business process flow, because all fields that are required has to be entered before you can move on to the next stage. And this is one of the functionalities of a business process flow. I think this does not give the best user experience. If you add a lot of fields in one stage, I would prefer as a user to work inside a form instead of in the business process flow. And that is something I've thought about and thought, well, maybe we can do things a little bit differently. And I've created a concept I'd like to call task groups. Let me show you what it's all about in a different form. A simplified form of where you can manually enter a case. And I have basic information you have to enter and contact information you have to enter of this incident of the broken screen. So instead of adding all the required fields in this, well, in this business process flow stage, I've added them to the form, and I've only added two yes/no fields to the business process flow stage: contact information entered and basic information entered. And what you can do is I can, for example, broken screen is the title of of this case. My phone screen is cracked. And if I now have saved this record, I have added the basic information. So the basic information entered is set to yes, but I still need to set the contact information because we do not know what the customer is about. Because I now have saved the incident, I also added requirements to the fields based on the business process flow stage, because on the new stage, we want all these three types of fields entered. So, for example, we can add the account information to Microsoft, and the contact information is still me. Now you can see that contact information is entered as well. I think this gives a better user experience than adding all these type of required fields to one business process flow stage. Let me quickly show you the business rules, how I do this. But first, let me show the stage. So this is the business process flow. I've already talked about different stages and conditions and data steps. In the new case, I've added two yes/no fields: contact information entered, which is required, and basic information entered, which is required. Those are only the two fields I've entered in a business process flow. Then I go to the business rule of one of the three types of business rules I've added to this form and to the case. This is the set the read only to the business process flow stage fields. So you do not want to manually change is the basic information entered. No, we want to do that with logic. To set them read-only, we have to add a condition, in this case, the owner. The owner contains data, and the owner always contains data if you enter a new, if you add a new record. So that's why I can then utilize the locking of the fields of the business process flow. At first, I didn't think it was going to be possible with business rules, and that I had to use JavaScript to lock fields in the stage, but you can use business process flow, business logic to lock fields in the business process flow stage, so which is cool. Now I have this presenting window in a way. Yeah, there it is again. Second business rule is to set the contact information based on the account and contact fields. So this is one of the Boolean fields. If the account and contact information is entered, you can then set the Boolean field to yes. If it's not entered, we can set it to no. So even on change, this will work. It has two rules inside the condition. So if account is entered or contains data, and if contact contains data, then we can set the field to required, or sorry, not required, but to yes. And the third business rule, if the business process flow stage is new, I want to set all the required fields. And not only the business process flow stage I've added to this rule, but also that the created by contains data, because you also want to quickly allow a user to add a new case, and you do not want to force them to enter all the required fields when quickly adding a case. That's why I added this second rule. So only if you want to move to the next stage, you have to enter the required fields. And what's cool about this is in this business rule, I can access the business process flow stage. This is not available when you create a business rule on the table, but it's only available if you set the scope to either all forms or the form you want to use it. So this is the scope, and I need to deactivate it to show the drop down, but I think you get the point. That you can check that you change the scope to access the business process flow, because that lives on top of the form and not necessarily inside your table. Let me go back to the case because I want to highlight one more thing. If you look at the Boolean or the yes/no fields, if you are a new user but you have worked with your model-driven app before or business process flow before, you might get frustrated because these fields are locked and why can I not change these? Well, basically, we do not want to use it to change it. We only use these yes/no fields to create an indication that you still need to do work on your form. And basically, these forms are checkmark controls now. And what's cool is that we can, since maybe a year, can add code components or change the components, the forms from your inside a business rule. You can already you could already change the controls inside your form, but now you can also change them in the business rule. And I want to show you how to do that. The Microsoft documentation tells you to update the solution XML, which I wouldn't recommend because the different community members have created a PCF to business process flow tool. You can use this XRM Toolbox tool to edit your business process flow. You click on Load your business process flow entities, and then it shows you a list of different types of business process flow you have in your system. You can see the stages I have in the business process flow. And if you select a stage, you can select a compatible PCF. And first you have to click the plus button, and I've created a checkmark control to I'll change the look of this field. Do not forget to add control apply changes, because otherwise it will not be added. And let's also do the other field to the same checkmark control. And after that, we can update and publish to the model-driven app, which usually does not take long. And hopefully the demo gods are kind to me today. No, they are not too kind, but if we go back to our screen, we still have them at yes, no, but after I refresh this field with a hard refresh, hopefully we can now see that we have a checkmark control. And then the user will not be confused why they cannot enter the information. So now the contact information entered is a green check mark because it's set to yes. And if I remove this field, the contact information is now a red cross or white cross in a red background. That's it for my task group concept. And I really like that you can now add business process flows to code components to your business process flow, because that really allows you to create the user experience that you would like. So to quickly recap what we've just seen and we talked about the task group concept. Instead of cluttering the user interface with a lot of fields that are required inside your business process flow stage, you can now use this concept to only have a yes/no field for certain tasks people have to do. So enter basic information and actually utilize the form where you want to work in. Business rules help you steer the user in the right direction. So set the fields required based on the business process flow stage. Set fields read-only to from a conditional point of view, and update those fields. So which is also really helpful. What you need to know about business rules, if you are going to add a lot of different type of business rules, you probably may want to consider JavaScript or TypeScript instead, because it can also be cluttering your form. If you use it too much, it not be the best oversight to quickly change or update certain controls. So that's something to keep in mind. And I really like that you can add a PCF control to the business process flow. So you can add different kind of PCF controls. In fact, I forgot to mention that I added the checkmark control to the PCF gallery, so you can use it yourself if you want to rebuild what I did. But there are also different types of controls out of the box you can use, or from the PCF gallery, or build your own. For the PCF to BPF tool, that's the tool that is that I use to update the business process flow fields. We have to thank Clement, Olivier, and Tengai Tuzard who built this. So big credit to those two. That's it for my task group concept, and I'm doing great on time. Let me talk about Power Automate flows inside business process flows. Of course, we all know Power Automate cloud flows. It helps you really automate all different kind of things. But what you may not know is that you can add a cloud flow to your business process flow as a stage step. Well, this gives you full power to what's available inside the Power Automate cloud flows. You can, for example, automate sending emails based on the stage the case is in, or create tasks and notifications for other people to work on specific problems. You can also create notifications to Teams or other applications, to Microsoft Teams, if you really want to use that. Create an adaptive card to post to Teams, grab the request or the response that you want. So you can really think outside the box if you use the business process flow or the cloud flow inside a stage. There are two tips that I want to mention, and I will highlight them in the demo as well. You have to start with the correct trigger, and the trigger is called, it's only available if you build the cloud flow inside a solution, and it's called when a flow step is run from a business process flow. So keep that in mind. That will give you the possibility to add the flow to your stage. And also there's this process log table. And if you finish the cloud flow, then it's a good practice to update the process log table to the status succeeded. Inside the business process flow stage, there's if you run a flow, it will update to, I'm not sure what it's updating to, but waiting or processing. I think it's processing, and it will stay on processing until you update the process log table, which is only a small request, and it can easily be done, and I will show you in the demo later on. And Power Automate approvals. For those of you who don't know about Power Automate approvals, it provides a way for your for all those processes where you need manager approval or where to get stakeholder buy-in from certain stakeholders that need approvals. You can automate something like a vacation time request or approving document that needs signed off, expense report, all those kind of sign-off experience you can use in Power Automate approvals. You can use it, of course, standalone in the Cloudflow. There's an approval app inside Microsoft Teams. You can use email notifications to get the approvals or actually give the approvals. There are different types of approvals. There's the basic approve, reject approval, which is the most easy to use. But you can also define your own custom buttons and even create 4 types of answers. And that's something that you can build yourself. For the approval, for the approver or approvee, I should say, you can continue with your process if one response has been made or if everyone has made an approval. So you can play around with that. And I think a lot of new functionality will be released in the upcoming 6 months around approvals. So if you, but that's more on the Microsoft 365 side, I believe. Just to talk about Power Automate approvals for a bit, because I want to combine the two. So add a stage and an approval inside your business process flow stage that gives you a lot of power and to the process you want. And I believe I'm going to the demo now. Yes, let's switch the screens again. This is the second stage of the case we just worked on. The phone screen is broken, but we've registered the case correctly, added all the required fields, moved on to the next stage. And for simplicity, I've called this stage the approval stage, but of course you will probably need to do some investigating first. But for instance, the broken screen customer is a loyal customer, buys a new phone every year from us, and after 2 weeks of buying a new phone, it breaks. And I am working the case, and I think to myself, this is a loyal customer. We have to be easygoing to him, not ask him to repair it, but we immediately send him a new screen instead of investigating deeper. However, I can decide that as a service worker, but I will probably need approval from my manager to do so. So in this stage, I can ask for approval to my manager, and for simplicity's sake, I've added the approver as a field. So this is a lookup field to the user entity. So I will give my own approval. Yes, that's how I run my company. Yeah, for simplicity's sake, I added the approval manually. If you build this scenario yourself, you probably want to add automation to what different types of case have different types of approvers, and of course you can do that as well using plugins or Power Automate flows or all kinds of logic to actually facilitate this process. But for simplicity's sake, I manually add it to the approver, and I can then run the flow that I've created. Hopefully. Yes, there it goes. I can add a comment to this case. This is a loyal customer. Let's give him a new screen. Can you sign off? And then we can run the flow. And because I have disabled my notifications, I need to go to Teams myself, and hopefully I will be able to see a new approval inside this request. I may need to manually update it. There is the approval request. Normally we get a pop-up for this approval app. And this is the request I've just asked to my manager, in this case myself. This is a loyal customer. Let's give him a new screen. Can you sign off on this? What I've also done, I've added a link to the case. So I can, as a manager, I can quickly glance over the case I've been working on. I can see, oh, this is from the customer Ben Blanke. Yes, indeed, he has a lot of loyalty to us. Okay, that probably is a good idea to go ahead to automatically send him a new screen. And we can press approve. What I've also did is, based on the result of the approval, I automatically updated the business process flow stage. So if I refresh this screen now, it will go to the approved stage and not to the approval rejected stage. Let me quickly refresh. And that immediately goes to a new queue, or a new notification will be sent to the one working the case, and he can quickly go over to the next step, sending the screen. So there's a lot of power that I've done here. And I think this is a great example of how you can automate a process to make it the way you want it. Customize the business process flow, add a lot of logic. And well, let me show you first in the approval stage I've added a lot of fields to also keep track of the things that are entered in the approval type. So my request I've added to this Dataverse record. This is a loyal customer. Let's give him a new screen. And I've also added the comment that we got back from our manager. Yes, go ahead. So we also can track what was going on in previous stages. Okay, how do you do all this? This is the business process flow. You can add from the components a flow step. And in the flow step, you can select the Power Automate Cloud Flow. You can only see them with the correct trigger. That's why I emphasized it. And the correct trigger, if you add a new flow from a solution, you will see this trigger when a flow step is run from a business process flow. These are only the flows you can select inside a business process flow stage. So keep that in mind. I've created one big cloud flow, but I've also added 3 copies of it to talk about the basics first and then go deeper if time permits. So this is the execution step. When a flow step is executed, when you press the button, I ask for a comment. Please describe your request. Please describe why and what you want to do. You can, of course, add multiple fields, I believe, but yeah, that's yeah, for advanced scenarios or bigger scenarios. I think we also I've also mentioned that I'll update the approval or the information of the request to the Dataverse case record. But to do that, I need to first get the user ID from the user who asked for the approval. I get a lot of information from this trigger, but they're not necessarily the stuff I need to add or fill a lookup. So I get an Azure Active Directory ID instead of the user ID, the Dataverse user ID. So I need to grab the system user ID to actually fill in the record who approved it. And then we set the case status and the approver comment. So the case status we set to waiting. We are waiting for an approval. We can add the comment that we get from the when a flow step is executed. This is all metadata that you get from this type of trigger. So a lot of information we will use eventually in other steps. So this is the request comment. And we fill in the lookup who has requested this approval. After which we still need to get the email, because approvals work with emails, the approval system for Power Automate Cloud Flows. We need to get the email from the system user we selected inside Dataverse. So we do a query to the approver and select the internal email address to actually send the approval to. Then we go ahead and start and wait for approval. This is the approval scenario, which I highlighted already. I've added the approval request, added a quick title. So the approval request is for the name of the case, and it's by the first name of the user we retrieved here. We also added the comment, and the approver was assigned to the email we got from the user that was selected. You can add multiple approvers if that's your use case. And after which the Cloudflare will actually wait until the approval has been given. And if it's been given, if the multiple people can approve. So I ask for the first approval in this condition, and if the first approval is equal to approve, we move on to the next steps. In this case, we only update the business process flow or the case record information with an ID we got from the metadata, the business process flow stage entity record ID, and we set this case record to okay, it's been approved. And the comment we got back is also from the first responder, and then it's the response summary. So that's what we update. And of course, if we do get a rejection, we almost do the same, but instead we set the approval status to rejected. And I've also mentioned that you need to update the process log table to succeed it. And this is a really quick and easy step, but please do not forget it because it will leave Cloudflows in a running state, or at least inside of your business process flow stage. It's also with metadata, so from the business process flow, and this is called the, I can better highlight this, the flows workflow log ID. So it's the log ID of the process log entity. So it's quick and easy to add this to the flow. This is part one. This is the approval flow and adding the information we get from the approval to Dataverse. It does not contain the item link, which is a bit more technical, but also doable. And these steps I've added here. First, I've also made the Cloudflow in a way that you can also transfer it to a next environment in your test acceptance or production environment, and it still will work. So it's not hard-coded, any ideas or GUIs, no. I've all added them dynamically. So that's a few more steps coming in. First, we need to know what environment you are working in, and to do so, we can look at, and this is a flow that has been run successfully to show you what data we get from, for example, the OData ID. Here we can see, okay, this is the organization with a complex name in the CRM4 environment, and we can grab the URI host, which means the basic part of the URL, and put it in a variable. And that is what I'm doing here. I put the OData ID, the link, inside a variable, so I can later on grab the URI host for only the basic URL to make it available, or make the same Cloudflow available across environments. Also, you would need to get the model-driven application ID. It's also part of the URL if you want to click it as a button. If you only have one model-driven application in your environment, you do not actually need it, but I think most of us have multiple model-driven apps in an environment usually. So we get the idea based on the name of our application. So the unique name will be different across environments, and we get that ID. And then we create a URL. So we have a function called URI host, which will use the URL, or the base part of the URL of the link we just saw. Then we add the first output of the model-driven application ID, and then the GUID. And this is something I copied from the hyperlink on top of your screen here. It's the same URL. And I was in this screen, and I've added the case ID instead of the GUID. And in my start and wait for an approval, I added the record link as an output and some description, so you actually can click on the link and have a friendly name for that link. So that's step 2 of this flow. And the third part, and I will keep that a little bit shorter because of time, is the automatically changing of your business process flow stage, which is really cool and I think useful in a lot of scenarios. But to do so, we need to update the business process flow stage, or the business process flow process entity. And let me quickly glance over what I really want to highlight. Yeah, in my output response, I've retrieved the next stage using an action. So the next stage of my business process flow, if approval has been given, is the approval given stage. And I need to grab the process stage ID because I want to update to the next stage. So this is what I retrieve from the process stages, which is where the metadata of your business process flow lives. I set a variable with this idea, so I can use the same block from the rejected stage as an approved stage, and we update the business process flow to the correct next stage. Each business process flow that you create gets its own table inside Dataverse, and the processes that are created live inside that table. What stage is it in, what fields are entered, etc. So I've updated, so we know we need to update this record that we want, and we update it to the next stage using the data lookup ID with the ID we set in the variable here. So we update it to the next process stage. What also is important is that you need to set the traversed path. And the traversed path is a series of steps that has been made inside this business process flow. So for example, if you go to the next stage, or then to the previous stage, and then again to the next stage, all those path steps are saved. You can use that kind of information also for for your process mining if you want. But we need to update that first path as well. And I will not highlight the code for it because of time. But that gives you an idea of what you need to do. And I've written blogs about it, and so I can link to that information if you want to build this yourself. But that gives you an idea of what you need to build and how you can actually extend on your business process flow. Let me quickly jump into the slides to highlight what we just talked about, and that is here. So we talked about approval and actions, yeah, the item link is really handy for the manager to quickly glance over to the record you want, write back the status and the results of our case, so we can actually track what's happening with our approval inside your Dataverse or inside your model-driven app. Yeah, and automatically change the stage. It's something you can do. It's not something you always need to do, but when you do, please remember to update the traverse path. If you do not, it will break your business process flow stage. So a really deep dive of what you can do with Power Automate Cloud Flows. And again, you can use all different kinds of scenarios that you can think of, but this was something I wanted to highlight as I give you some ideas about that. Other topics to research, because there's a lot of possibilities to help you or help your users guide asynchronous work inside model-driven applications. You can work with queues. Queues are a way where you can add multiple records, and based on their created on or priority, teams can pick up the most important record from top to bottom. So queues can be added to a team or user, so that if you that's something you might want to research if you looking to facilitate asynchronous work. You can add tasks inside model-driven apps. I use that a lot to give people ideas of what they can do on different departments. And you can actually use Kanban boards inside of Teams nowadays, or inside of your model-driven apps nowadays, to help drag and drop tasks in and add them to the in progress state, active stage. And of course, you can then use Cloud Flows if a task has been done to notify users on the other side, or update the business process flow information if you want to. That's something you can actually customize. Another great way to facilitate, and if it's a more complex decision that needs to be made, then either A or B, or new screen or fix the screen, then you can create a custom page to create a dialogue, to create multiple pathways to actually help and decide, okay, what do I need to do in this kind of situation? And that's especially helpful if you do not have the most experienced employees, but they need to do complex tasks. Then you can guide them, okay, based on this step, based on this logic, you will need to do this output. So that's something you can create dialogues on. And a good thing to know is there are a lot of SLA functionalities, service level agreement timers, etc. in Dynamics 365 Service, which really collaborate well with business process flow. So you can set timers on different stages and when they need to be completed. So that's something to keep in mind as well. All right, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. And an hour goes faster than you think when you're presenting I think. Took a deep dive, and I hope you enjoyed the more technical session, or still low code but technical. And if you think outside the box, you can do a lot of cool things inside your model-driven application. Yeah, as I said in my blog, I will share the link as well. I've talked about all different steps I've just shown you, so reference that if you want to. And yeah, thank you for your time and attention, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed it.
Well, thank you, Ben. What a huge round of applause for Ben there. I think everyone really appreciated that session, Ben. I think often with user requirements, business process flow often meets that, and you've definitely showed how to do that. So once again, fantastic, Ben. So Ben, there is a question by Morton, who is saying, when would you advise to use BPF versus Cloud Flows versus PDA?
I'm not really sure what PVA is.
I think PDA is for Power Automate Desktop, I think he was referring to. Cloudflow
A Cloudflow is where you want to automate a linear process. I think that's the best use case, and that you can actually automate the task involved there. A business process flow is where you actually have different stages, and there's not necessarily a lot of automation involved, but you actually have to do some manual work or do some thinking about what's happening in this stage, and then you can do the automation in between stages. And if you're talking about Power Automate Desktop, that's not really my expertise, but robotic process automation can be used in conjunction with Power Automate Cloud Flows or in between. But I think that's the same process, except you use robotics instead of APIs.
Thank you, Ben. So Carolus has asked, has asked what approvals are in wait. Sorry, the question, I need to read it again. What's with approvals that are in wait for several days? Execution time for a Power Automate flow.
The execution limit, I believe, out of top of my head, is 30 days, but I'm not sure. There are some blogs out there that talk about how you can retrieve and resubmit approvals that are in a waiting stage. So another notification has been sent, but that's something you can do in a Cloudflow. So that's something to think about.
Great question. Yes. Medipal has asked, can we send a reminder approval email without reoccurrence?
Yeah, I have not done that myself, but I've seen other community members talk about this in blog posts, that they actually query the approvals that are in the waiting stage or not approved, and that they can then resubmit or send another notification to the ones who need to do the approving. But I do not know enough about the subject to.
Thank you once again, Ben. So, yep, there's been some confirmation by Henry on your answer in relation to the 28-day limit. There's great feedback from Mukesh Kumar. Thanks, Ben. Natalia, excellent session. Thank you. Jason, Andrew, excellent session. Gulapali and Wahaj Rashid saying awesome session. Thank you, Ben. Anu saying thank you, very informative. So great feedback, Ben. I think you were very well paced. You really covered the topic very well. And showed the limitations and constraints. So thank you once again, Ben. So Ben, I know that the community would love to keep in touch with you. I know you've shared your screen, your contact details on the screen. Are you able to share your contact details in the chat as well, please?
Yeah, I actually wanted to able to be clickable, but the template I'm using will make it light blue instead of white. So I've actually made it text. So I will add them to the chat. Yeah,
fantastic. Thank you so much, Ben, for taking your time out, busy schedule today to share your insight and your knowledge. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in person very soon.
Thank you for having me, and enjoy the rest of your bootcamp, everyone.
Thank you, Ben. Fantastic.